Also on the top 5 today, Russia accuses U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry of distorting the reality about the recent round of talks on Iran's nuclear program in Geneva. A source with the Russian Foreign Ministry says that contrary to what Kerry says, Iran is not to blame for the failure. The source says the draft joint document in Geneva suited the Iranian side, but since decisions in the talks are taken by consensus, the same source says it was not possible to make a final deal. It rejected Kerry's portrayal of the 6 countries negotiating with Iran as a unified body. The comments imply that the fault was due to disunity among the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has also rejected Kerry's comments, saying that the bulk of the talks was used to resolve differences among Tehran's negotiating partners. Mr. E. Michael Jones, editor with Culture Wars online magazine, is with us now live from Indiana. Thank you very much for being with us on the top 5, sir. Now, Mr. Jones, what is the reason, do you think, for these contradictory remarks being made? We're hearing John Kerry saying that we were united, the P5+1. It was Iran that was undecided. However, Iran is saying that it's not, of course, said directly that France was responsible, but there have been hints both from Iran and Russia that France was the one who was blamed and caused this deal not to be agreed. And a lot of people are saying that France was actually doing Israel's bidding. So what really happened and how can we find out?
Well, I think that the main fiction they have to portray here is that the West is united in its position, and I don't think that's the case. And I think that what you're seeing here is that the main player in this whole thing isn't at the table. The main player is Israel and the Israel lobby, and this group is determined that there will be no agreement with Iran. They want the sanctions to continue. They understand clearly that if there's rapprochement with Iran, they lose their power. They lose their power over the United States. So I think each of these countries is vulnerable to the local version of the Israel lobby in their own countries, and none of them wants to come across as taking the lead because that will make them even more vulnerable. So John Kerry now has to come back to the United States, and he has to plead before Congress for the deal, the politics that they're pursuing, and Congress is much more pro-Israel than the Obama administration is at this point. So I think he would like to portray the United States as not standing out, as not taking the lead in wanting an agreement with Iran, because that would make him more vulnerable to the Israel lobby.
Well, one other question that some people are asking is why we saw France this time round speaking about, quote, Israeli interests, Israeli concerns, rather than the U.S. being the one who's bringing that up. A lot of people were saying that we would expect the United States to come up with comments like this. Why was the U.S. this time round more towards reaching a deal and France coming out against this deal that it was saying would endanger Israel's interests? Is this a good cop, bad cop game, as some are saying, or do you think that the Obama administration is genuinely looking for a deal?
I think that the Obama administration is genuinely looking for a deal. I think they realize that unlike France, the United States is overextended militarily. It cannot afford to prolong this operation in the Middle East, especially in light of the growing threat of China in the Pacific. And on the other hand, I mean, whoever said that France wasn't under the control of the Israel lobby? Bernard-Henri Lévy led the charge against Libya. France was the first country involved in the looting of Libya. So I think it's foolish to say that they are not as pro-Israel as the United States. At this point, they're more pro-Israel, and the United States has more of an interest to come to an agreement with Iran than France does.
Thank you very much. E. Michael Jones, editor of Culture Wars online magazine, with us live from Indiana.